All right, are we ready? Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Coffee with Father James. Now you Coffee with Father James nerds will recognize the original coffee mug. It is the Gary Larson Farside Aerobics in Hell coffee mug, and I've always been a fan of the Farside, and I found this mug. I think it belonged to Father Jim, the previous pastor, and I kind of seconded it, to the, for my own purposes. The reason I chose this coffee mug is because I am just been informed that this is the third anniversary of the very first Coffee with Father James video. That's right, we've been doing them for 3 years now. That's a lot of videos, a lot of coffee as well. And this is the beginning, this is week 1 of the 4th season of Coffee with Father James. So in honor of that great anniversary, I'm going to take a drink. I'm trying not to swallow it in a gulpy way, because it's kind of gross, isn't it, when it comes across the microphone? You're like watching a YouTube video and you get this gulping noise. Anyway, some of you may be thinking, well, in previous anniversaries, you were out in the park on that same park bench. Indeed, I was, but it's kind of rainy a little bit, so I'm inside. But I'm also inside for another reason. You can see behind me a replica, a representation not only of the Alpha logo, but also an Alpha small group. And yes, I want to talk to you about Alpha. Now, I know, and we're still trying to enjoy the remnant of the summer, although it kind of doesn't feel very summery these days, but we're still hanging on to August, to the concept of August. And we know it's a very Canadian thing that you don't really surrender to the inevitability of the fall and the following winter until we get past Labor Day weekend. So I don't want to burst that bubble. However, I know if you're like me, we're starting to drift in that direction. We're starting to ponder the autumn months and the wintry months. And so for that reason, I want to propose to you the concept of Alpha, to revisit that theme. Now, I know many of you are saying, is he talking about this again? I'm talking about it again, because I believe it is the most important thing outside of celebrating the Eucharist, outside of that central act of worship that we give to the Lord. It's the most important thing we can do as a community. And I want to tell you why. And a lot of it has to do with the gospel reading for this weekend from Matthew chapter 16. You see, Jesus asks 2 very similar questions, and yet questions that couldn't be more different. He's in Caesarea Philippi, and he asks his closest companions, who do people say I am? And then he asks, who do you say I am? Now, they sound very similar, but they're completely different, because, who do people say I am is something you can get from reading a book, reading a textbook. It's what others say. There's no skin in the game. There's no personal investment. It doesn't reflect a personal experience or a personal relationship. But the question, who do you say I am, is only a question you can answer when it's rooted in knowing a person. Not just knowing about a person from reading a book, but actually knowing the person. And that difference is why we do Alpha. We do Alpha because it's our chosen tool of evangelization. Number 1, evangelization. And evangelization is a very diverse range of activities and things that happen, but the ultimate purpose of evangelization, which goes from announcing the message of the good news about Jesus and what God has done for us through him and God's love, to helping people to not just know about this person, Jesus, but also to come to know him, to come into an encounter with him, into a relationship with him, and to a place of surrender where we, in a sense, become his disciple. Jesus says, my Father is glorified in this, that you become my disciples and bear much fruit. And to be a disciple, that word means a student, a learner. And, well, as we all know in our own lives, when you truly commit to being a learner, it's usually a reflection of some interior motivation, some interior impulse. When we're told to go and learn something and our heart's not in it, it's incredibly hard to learn, isn't it? So that desire to learn is at the heart of being a disciple, and it comes out from that personal relationship with Jesus. And that's what we're called to do as a church. Jesus said, go into all nations and make disciples and baptize them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teach them to do everything that I commanded you. In the heart of that Great Commission, also from Matthew's Gospel, Matthew 28, is the making of disciples. That's why we do Alpha. Alpha is not a perfect instrument. When you deal with human beings, there's nothing that's completely predictable, but it is, of all my experiences in pastoral ministry and parish work, it is the most consistent. It's a method that has the most consistent rate of results, i.e. people encountering the living God, people encountering Jesus in a personal way, and through Jesus coming to know the love of the Father in a new way, through Jesus experiencing the Holy Spirit, which is the love of God being poured into our hearts. So we're brought into the life of the Trinity. And also the incredible thing that happens for so many people in Alpha is the relationships that are formed. People become friends. Jesus said in John's Gospel, I don't call you servants any longer. I call you friends. To be friends. See behind me this table now. It's a rectangular table, but someone once said that renewal happens in a church when people go from sitting in rows to sitting in circles, and it's that turning towards one another, that intimacy that produces spiritual friendship, that we befriend one another as we respond to the person of Jesus. And that's another thing, amazing thing that happens on Alpha. People form friendship, people experience Christian community, people experience God in a new and life-giving way. And the other thing that happens on Alpha, the other reason I do Alpha, is because Alpha, people sometimes say, well, who's it for? Well, it's for anyone who's never done Alpha. That's who it's for. So whether you're a churchgoer or not, it's for you, because we want you to go more into the life of the Trinity, to experience God's love, to experience spiritual friendship, to experience community. And even if you're watching, you're thinking, well, I already have all that. I don't need any more of that. Anyway, even if that were true, just saying, even if that were true, we want you to learn the tool. Think about it as a communal fishing net. This is our communal fishing net. Jesus says, put into the deep water and let down your nets for a catch. We want to help you to respond to that request of Jesus, that invitation of Jesus to go out into the deep, to learn how to use this fishing net. So that's another reason for you to do it. And then finally, ultimately, it's for the people who might not even be churchgoers, who might be out there, who might be searching spiritually. They might think that the Christian faith, the Catholic faith, is the last place they would ever find relevancy or something that would make a difference in their lives. And we're surrounded by people who have a tremendous spiritual hunger. And don't we believe that Jesus is the bread of life, that he is the water of life, the one who satisfies our deepest thirsts? Now, if you're not convinced of that, then maybe you need to do Alpha to discover that for yourself. But there are a lot of spiritually hungry people out there, and perhaps this is the season where you can begin to pray for the people in your life. Maybe there's 3, 4, 5 people who you already know, you care for them, you love them, and perhaps a simple invitation could change someone's life. Statistically, we know that for every 5 invitations to Alpha, 1 person comes on Alpha. And I think that means that our efforts at evangelization this coming semester could be very, very fruitful indeed. Now, I say this coming semester, Alpha begins on Thursday. It's going to be on Thursday nights this time around on September 28th. We have one major Alpha in this room here. It is limited in space. For now, we're working on more solutions to this in the future, but Thursday, September 28th. So write down that date. Again, if you haven't yet done Alpha, we'd love to see you there. And if you have, or if you haven't, and you want to invite others, please start thinking about those people. Write down their names, start praying for them, and looking for an opportunity to make a simple invitation. Remember, when you invite someone to Alpha, you're not inviting them to a 10-week process. You're inviting them to come for one night and to come and see, and then to make a decision from there. So please keep that date in mind, and please pray for the fruitfulness of our newest alpha. So on this anniversary of Coffee with Father James, I apologize formally for being a bit long-winded, but it is, after all, my favorite topic. Take care and God bless.